Amy, thank you so much for having me, and it's always good to spend time with you. This is a very historic payout for Black farmers, and I see it as a huge win for myself and the National Black Farmers Association that worked on this for nearly 4 decades. So basically, 60,000 applications were turned in, 45,000 Black farmers and other farmers of color have begun receiving checks this week and the latter part of last week. So it's very good news, and a total of $2 billion. So we've been waiting for this payout for a long time.
Throughout the history of African Americans' existence in the country, we have a history of losing land, not because we lost the land in the dice game. No, literally millions and millions of acres were taken away from us ever since the 1800s going down the line. Recently, I heard about the legendary city of Mount Bayou, Mississippi, and then I looked at what happened with some of the farmers there. In the same case, they paid for the land, they started the city, and they lost it. That's why the US government and the USDA decided to give those farmers back $1 billion because they stole their land. But the land stealing is still going on today. It's just a little different. First of all, when we talk about stealing from African Americans, we know about reparations. Whenever we talk about reparations in the country, there's always pushback.
There's a lot of stuff happening right here in this historic building behind me, also known as the California State Capitol. Right now, Democrats in this building are trying to ram through a bill that would establish a fund in the state treasury for reparations. The Reparations Task Force's recommendation is that African Americans in the state of California receive $800 billion in taxpayer-funded reparations. That'll be $1.2 million each. Senate Bill 1331, which would be the first step to getting this to happen, just passed out of the Assembly Appropriations Committee. That means once they can get it through the Assembly floor and to the governor for a signature, it becomes law. That's what State Senator Stephen Bradford wants to do. He wants California to take responsibility for discriminatory policies against African Americans, for slavery, for all these different things and all these different injustices that happened in our past. But let me remind everybody once again that California was a free state, and with the big budget deficit that we have, how would it make any sense to allow our government to basically multiply its budget by 2.5 times? First of all, they'd have to collect a lot of taxes to do this. And then how do we know it's going to get sent to the right place? Because with everything else, they're always messing up.
But nevertheless, there's never so much pushback when it comes to other groups getting things for literally nothing. Now, this is not to say that people don't migrate to the United States to get opportunities or to get jobs or to better themselves. That happens around the world. But the question is, should they be able to get things that other citizens shouldn't? For an example, there's a story that is going viral right now of this Venezuelan migrant couple who's bought a new house in North Austin in Chicago. Now, for those of you who know about the Austin community, it is on the legendary West Side. And the West Side is legendary for having a large African American population. But it's interesting, this couple is about to buy a house on the West Side in the Black community. But then the question is, to me, what about the African Americans that live there? Now, do you know that some brothers and sisters actually sued the city of Chicago over the migrant crisis? And we're going to find out why.
But what we see across the city of Chicago is that they're getting access to, they're getting up to $9,000 in funding. They're getting access, they're getting rental assistance, they're getting support, free childcare, free transportation, and with the housing situation, we're noticing now the city of Chicago has been scrambling to really find places for them to go. So they're making deals with landowners. And the problem with that is that in the Black community, there's a lot of absent landowners, and they've left dilapidated properties in our neighborhoods. We have fought for years to try to get those dilapidated properties to come back into the community. And now all of a sudden, now that there's this money falling from out the sky for migrants, these landowners are now using the money to renovate to allow migrants to get in. Let me give you an example. This one landowner in South Shore has a 8-unit building, designated 8-unit building. This man was allowed by the city of Chicago to turn this 8-unit building into a bed for 69 migrants. And he's already have a history of being a slum landlord. So we're now beginning to see that they're prioritizing migrants in housing, and then also utilizing land that really should be renovated and brought back into the community.
Now it's interesting. The black community in many parts, whether it's the West or South Side, have always asked people, such as Mayor Brandon Johnson and whoever else was the mayor, to listen, you guys should revitalize this abandoned property and bring it back into the community. But that hasn't happened. Once the migrant crisis came to the city of Chicago, oops, here's all this money to revitalize these properties, give them to slum landlords, and then do what? Give them out to the migrants. But I gotta be fair, part of this is our fault. In fact, a lot of this is our fault because there is a church who bought these homes, okay? They revitalized these homes. That's how the migrant family got into the house in the first place. And again, we can blame them and we can try to do that. But what about all of our black churches on the West Side or the South Side, all of the mega churches in Chicago? I have a question. How many abandoned houses are these churches buying and then trying to get the community or to try to sell these houses back to people in the community? Because guess what? We can say that we don't like the fact that that happened and it's off taxpayers' money, but hey, they had a little help from this church. And this is the difference between some of our churches and our communities and other people. I remember when I lived in Sacramento, California, my hometown. And of course, I used to go to the 24-hour fitness out there in Citrus Heights. And when I was going there, I would recognize something that was odd, which was a credit union. Now, credit unions are not uncommon in Sacramento, and they're not uncommon in most places. But I did see this credit union that was for Ukrainians only. And I thought about something. I said, wow, I see Ukrainian churches, I see Ukrainian credit unions, and Sacramento County has, at that time, at least 15% African-American population. Where is the African-American credit union? Because we are always talking about, we were being underserved in the Sacramento black community, and we need some other options, and there just wasn't. You couldn't tell me that the money wasn't there because the money was there. What wasn't there was the organization. And part of this is our fault because of lack of planning, lack of agenda, and lack of other things. You see, these churches that want to help migrants, like you said, they found that family that was out there. And by the way, that family cannot even speak English, by the way. They've been here for 8 years, owning a house in the black community, and they can't even speak English. Not that that's required, but just goes to show you how some people will allow them to get ahead when at the same time, we should allow ourselves to get ahead. And that's something that we just got to take a level of accountability for it too, is, okay, we're asking people to buy up these properties and rehabilitate these things. Yes, they should do that, but we probably should know that they won't do that. And if they won't do that, who will do it? Well, that means me and you got to do it. Unfortunately, while we're waiting for reparations or we're waiting for things to happen, we understand that in the system of white supremacy, and that can be accomplished with a black president or a black mayor, we have to solve a lot of this stuff for ourselves, okay? A lot of the black community's problems have to be solved directly. We have to create what we want to see. If we want businesses in our communities, we can't go and say, Boeing, come through, or Kellogg's, come through. That would be nice, but we have to create those things. We have to train our people to be what we want to be. It's all over the black world. If we are not going to do it, it just simply isn't going to happen. And we have to be honest about that. We need to have a real conversation that if we are not going to put it there and we're not going to try to invest into our people so they can have these things, and you're waiting for the governments to do it, especially a Democratic government to do it, they're going to give it to who? Somebody else. Because you're not in the plan. I'm not in the plan. So we have to put ourselves in the plan. If we don't think like this, seriously, we got to stop complaining about it. Because right now, this is going to be a war of attrition. These things should be uniting our people every day because the writing is literally on the wall. We have to start learning how to work together. We have to start getting that skill and getting it within this generation or suffer the consequences. And let me tell you, they are dire. So guys, what do you think? It's your boy, Shay D. Jackson, back at it again with another episode here on the channel. I'm out.